YCS Dortmund just concluded, and Sunavalon Rikka was the winner once again. It seems like the top deck for the EU format, and there were a lot of changes and shocks that I think a lot of people were either unprepared for or very prepared for. So let's get into it. Let's discuss the YCS Dortmund, the grand finals, and everything that has concluded since then. Let's get into it. I want to start off by talking about Turent and the crazy impact it's had on the format. When you see previous YCS winners, national winners, things like that run the Turent deck, it's clearly the best deck and one of the best decks in the meta. And for players to put their potential championship on the line with a deck that, has seemingly came back into the meta with just a Rise Heart band, I think that goes to show how popular and how good Turent really was. And it's almost like you ripped the mask off of a Rise Heart and there was a Kaleido Heart. So there we go. Turent is officially potentially a tier 1 deck, and I'm gonna go ahead and say it is a tier 1 deck. It's a very consistent deck as well. Obviously there are ways to stop it, and we saw a lot of DD Crows, Ghost Spells, Bestials as well. So for some players, they were extremely prepared and clearly they succeeded. The Vanquish Soul player who got second place, for example, played an amazing deck list with DD Crows and Ghost Spells. And so I think that was what helped this player win probably a few of his games, as those were some clutch DD Crows. And so we move swiftly onto why Turent was so popular. Well, with a Rise Heart band with less shifter play, Kashtira wasn't even in the top 32, and I'm pretty sure the top 64. And I think a lot of players abandoned the deck. It kind of became a playstyle people were kind of sick and tired of. It was a dice roll of what you lose to. Either it's the books or the bureaus and board breakers. There were so many reasons why people were excited to kind of drop the deck. And so I think for that reason, everyone got into Turent. It was a really fun deck. It's one of the best decks to watch in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm not gonna lie, I kind of hoped it was in the grand finals. It's just such a hype deck to play, and I think you could tell from the crowd as well that people really enjoyed watching it once again. In the top 4, it was quite interesting. We actually had Unchained, we had Sunavalon Rikka, we had Vanquish Soul, and with the Turent Vanquish Soul matchup in top 8, you could clearly tell how the deck has been nerfed. I definitely am going to put Turent in the top of my food chain for best meta decks this format. And it was quite interesting. I did a few polls on my channel about what deck people thought would win. A lot of people voted Unchained, and obviously that did not work out. Moving on to the next topic is Vanquish Soul. So this is a deck that's primarily super underrated, heavily, underused, and for that reason, I think it was a dark horse into the format that we got a banlist for, and then Dortmund was maybe 1 or 2 weeks after. And so if you were the most prepared, I think you were the ones who succeeded the most. We definitely saw aspects where certain people's deck choices and deck builds were not the best, whereas others clearly shined. DD Crow and Ghost Spell was amazing. They are great in the Vanquish Soul deck anyway, so you could argue it wasn't even that crazy. But I wonder if people will start picking up Vanquish Soul as a solid meta contender. I don't think it's going to be Rogue anymore, and I definitely think it's one of the top decks. Possible it's a tier 1.5, tier 2 deck. I definitely see people buying this. We're getting new support in Age of Overlord, which actually makes the deck even stronger. So if the deck is already getting a second place now, how do you think the deck is going to perform once Age of Overlord comes out with that new Broken Trap card, and of course the powerful Fire Monster, which was an attribute they were actually missing? So again, another reason why people may be picking this up. I believe we also saw Super Heavy Samurai teched into the Vanquish Soul deck, which I thought was quite cool. Dempsey can search Raisin, and the Raisin gets the engine going, and you never do your normal summons. We saw the anti-spell Fragrance win some games. We saw Eradicator win some games. We didn't see much Calamity, and there was a few really good Manadan players on live stream, but they were not playing the Calamity lock. They were favoring the classic negate board, and the combo lines they were doing were pretty interesting, and it meant they could summon Baron on the 5th summon. So I wonder what's going to happen with Manadan players until Age of Overlord, whether the deck really takes off with a 1-card combo. I was honestly surprised that we didn't see as much of it. And again, when Calamity did not get banned, I think a lot of players were a bit outraged, but clearly it did not mean much when players weren't even running it and weren't even using it. We did not see a lot of drawn Lockbird as well, so even more reasons why maybe Manadan players should have done the Calamity FTK versus not doing it. And so just a food for thought there as to the ripple effects of YCS Dortmund. And finally, with Fluunderies, getting a YCS win and getting more popular, but cash dropping all the way down, not even making a name in the top 64. I never thought I'd see the day where we see that, and that means Shifter was not seen as much, and that means a lot of graveyard decks like Turent were able to make it into top cut. And so Turent was the highest percentage in the top cut. I'm honestly kind of happy in a way, but really shocked and surprised that it did make that. I did not expect it. I guess it is just the hot topic at the moment until Age of Overlord, potentially, but with cards like Horus coming out, maybe that's not the case, and they will continue to dominate. And so what it might mean is a lot of players will flock to, no pun intended, but will flock to Fluunderies just for the Shifter. But clearly, if Turent keeps ramping up the way they did at a YCS, then at your locals, OTSs, regionals, I think Shift is going to be another big game winner if people keep picking up Turent, which is one of the most fan favorite decks in the game. Moving on to Purely, this was quite a weird one because we didn't see any in top cut. And I don't know how I feel about that. I wonder if all the DD Crows that people were playing, again, the Vanquish Soul player was playing it, and I believe a few other players were also teching it. Maybe that was the reason why Purely could not make it into top cut. But again, the deck is really strong. I think a lot of players were predicting it to top and maybe even win the YCS. I'm just as stunned as you guys. I'm still trying to analyze why that was. We have this ban list, we have this YCS. I really wonder what's going to happen with Purely. If it's going to be benched away with the new cards coming out soon in Age of Overlord. Just a real shocker. And again, like I said, I'm still coming to terms with it. Why they did not or was not able to get that representation. It was a real surprise. And so that was my really quick and, you know, still trying to make sense of what happened at YCS Dortmund. Wrap up what are the ripple effects that are going to happen in the meta because of the changes. Love to know. And if that be said, I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.